Yo, what up? How's it going? And welcome back. Today's VOD review, we will be doing Griffin versus KT for week 4. This is game 1, the LCK Spring Split. Cool. So let's just get right into it. So really excited to do a Griffin VOD review. I actually haven't done any Griffin VOD reviews this year, which is really weird. So anyways, we're finally doing a Griffin VOD review. This series was pretty fun to watch. Something that's really cool about to watch Griffin is my favorite part of any game is actually the draft. I love doing the draft. Something that's really cool about Griffin games is I feel like Griffin always teaches you something in the draft. And the draft this game was actually pretty genius. See, Griffin always does some weird stuff in the draft. Like they first pick Galio, which is in general a pretty bad first pick on this patch if you're on blue side. Just not a very powerful champion unless you're like, you know, NNA and we want to pick like our super brain dead comp and we have to pick around that win condition. You know, generally when you're on blue side, you want to pick a power pick with your first pick and then kind of round your comp around that power pick. So that's usually why Galio is not a very good first pick, because you can get him later in the draft. So you can kind of round your comp around a Galio later in the draft. But you generally do pick him inside of the first phase. But their draft was pretty genius, and I'll explain why, because it was all a giant debate for KT, and they actually get everything that they want. Okay, so cool. Let me explain. Cool. So over here on Griffin's side, they actually first picked the Galio. When I saw that when I was watching this live, I was like, huh. Well, that's weird. I know that Lehends is a Galio player, so that's actually a flex for Lehends and Chovy. So I actually knew that was a flex. But what it also does is that debates KT into thinking that's just the mid lane pick. Because why would you first pick Galio support? That's the cool thing about this being a new patch. Because why would you first pick Galio support as your first pick on blue side? This is something that Griffin can do because their team is so good that they can give away powerful picks like the Yasuo. So they pick Yasuo and Zoe is a direct counter pick to the Galio in lane, right? Hard out ranges, has a great laning phase against Galio, so that's a counter pick, and Zoe's actually really strong in the meta right now. So they can actually build a comp around Zed and Yasuo is one of the best champions on this patch. So they give away 2 really powerful picks, and they're able to do that just basically because they're Griffin, and they're actually picking a comp that they want. They're giving away the power picks on blue side, but they can do this because they're Griffin, but they also have a plan. So they debate them into, okay, we're picking Galio, and they're like, okay, well, we'll pick Zoe. We'll make a 1-3-1 poke. We can make a 1-3-1 poke Yasuo comp, so we'll build this. We'll take this. So KT's like, cool. You got Galio. We'll pick Zoe. We'll get Prio mid. We'll also take the Yasuo pick because he's one of the best champions on this patch. Cool, Liddy. And then Griffin comes back and they pick Ezreal, who's probably the best AD carry on this patch, maybe other than maybe Lucian. So they get a super powerful AD carry, and they get the victor. So what that shows is like, okay, this is your entire top side. So, or not your entire top side, but this is your solo laners and your carries. So that's what it tells KT. So this is your solo laner and your carry. So that frees them up to pick what they think is that they're, all right, we'll pick our Yorick, and we know we're going to be laning into the victor. So we're going to be able to have our 1-3-1 win condition. We have a really good split push matchup. So it debates him in that. I'm not really going to talk about the Lee Sin pick. Lee Sin pick's just a good pick. It's just a good jungler on this patch. So Lee Sin just makes a lot of sense. I'll talk about him later when I'm talking about win conditions. But it debates them into thinking that they're not blind picking the Yorick, but they're actually blind picking the Yorick. And Griffin gets the counter pick with the Fiora. And the Fiora hard outscales, like hard outscales the Yorick. Not necessarily like hard outscales, just Fiora just wins that. Everything Fiora wants to do just destroys Yorick. It's hard for Yorick to land his E or do the dungeon. Fiora just destroys Yorick after 2 items. Yorick just can't land anything on her, so this is a really good matchup for Sword. So as soon as she has 2 items, she just destroys that matchup, and it's really easy to just play around her. So they actually get the counter pick in top lane, so they actually get everything they want, and they just pick a Zac to round out their comp. So it was actually pretty genius by Griffin. This was all like a prank. This is all just a giant debate. Their whole draft, they were just debating them the whole time to a false sense of security, and actually get everything they want. So it's really cool when you watch Griffin, because when they pick a pick, I'm like, how's this gonna work out? And Griffin's able to do this. Well, other teams could do this, but the reason why Griffin is able to do this because their players are so good that even when they're on blue side, they'll let you have the power picks, and they still get to counter pick you on blue side. It's pretty crazy. So they'll let you have the power picks, and they'll just counter pick you anyways. They'll just counter pick the power picks. They don't care. It's kind of cool. So that was pretty cool to see. Cool. So now that I just explained the draft phase is just so interesting to me, and I love how Griffin drafts. So that's why I just talked about that. I'm not like a Griffin fangirl or anything like that. I'm just a fan of good League of Legends. So I am a fan of Griffin then. Cool. So let's just talk about the actual win conditions of each draft. So cool. So let's talk about Griffin draft. So this is a Galio support. So the reason why Galio support is good on this patch with Ezreal is because Ezreal is actually going to be running the Frostmancy. And what's genius about the Galio support is Galio actually scales really well with gold. You know, obviously he's a mid laner. And so when you do Frostmancy Ezreal's the Galio is actually going to be CSing. So so he scales really well with gold. They actually don't end up going into that build route, but that's why it would make sense. That's why it would be genius to me. But they actually just want the Galio for pick potential, so that also makes sense. So I was thinking more he can build like a first item AP item and can actually be like a normal Galio type of deal. That would have been like a really interesting approach. That'd be like a really Griffin thing to do, but more of a Griffin thing to do is just build redemption. So that's kind of the route to go into. So Galio actually scales really well with gold, so it makes a lot of sense to pair with the Ezreal because the support will actually be getting the gold in lane for the early part of the laning phase because this is a Frostmancy Ezreal. So that's why that makes a whole lot of sense. Cool. So let's talk about actual win conditions. So early game is pretty rough for this comp. So they are actually into double melee in the bot lane, so they can get a lot of free gold. They actually end up botching the lane setup, but we're not going to talk about what actually happens in the game. But they actually have a lot of free gold generation because they're laning into double melee. They're laning into Yasuo Gragas. They have a lot of free gold generation, so this bot lane is actually pretty free for them to just sit back, generate their gold, and then transition that to mid prio later. So basically, what they want to do this game is sit back and farm until like the early mid game. Transition Ezreal to get the mid prio. They're gonna have that Fiora split push win condition, and they can look for picks in the enemy jungle with the Zac and the Galio. So they want to look for like explosive mid game fights with Zac, Galio, and Ezreal, and then they're gonna have that Fiora split push win condition. So Zac will be wanting to obviously get to his level 6 mark. You know, pray to get out of the early game. So Zac's looking to pray to get out of the early game, and then look to actually make plays around his Fiora to get his Fiora a little bit of lead so they can just have that pressure point on the map so that they can actually start to just have prio mid and get vision within the enemy's jungle so they can look for picks with the Galio and Zac and Ezreal. So they can just get prio around the objectives that they want, have the Fiora just hard outscale the Yorick, and have that pressure point on the side of the map and just basically get all the fights that they want is what they want to do. And they have a lot of scaling options with the Ezreal and the Victor. So I like what they got going on here. The only thing that's concerning is getting the Zac out of the early game because they actually don't have prio in a lot of their lanes. So this is going to be a Victor mid. So Victor does get pushed in this lane. So Victor will not have prio in the early laning phase, or Zoe can have prio and gets outranged. Victor gets outranged. And the first couple of levels, Fiora actually does have prio in this lane, but then does get shoved in as soon as Yorick has a couple of ghoulies stacked up. So early couple of levels, Fiora can help out the Zac, but right after that can get pushed in. Cool. So if we're looking at KT over here, we're talking about KT's win condition. So this is a Yasuo bottom with a Gragas support, a Yorick top, a Lee Sin jungle, and a Zoe mid is what we're looking at. I don't know why I said it in that order, but that's what we're looking at. So they actually do not have a split push win condition, even though they have a Yorick. I mean, they theoretically could get him ahead, but even from behind, that matchup is pretty not good for the Yorick, unless Yorick gets really far ahead. Just York doesn't have a whole of the lockdown for the Fiora, and Fiora can dodge out on the E. If you don't lane the E on York, it feels kind of bad. So Fiora has a lot of outplay potential on the York, whereas York doesn't really have it on her. So unless York can get really far ahead, they really don't have that much of a split push win condition, unless the Yasuo gets far ahead too. But that's a pretty positive matchup for the Fiora as well. So, but they do have a pretty good team fight. So they drafted mainly for they have a pretty good 1-3-1, so they could run a 1-3-1 if they can get a hard advantage in one of the solo lanes. So that's something they could work around, because they get a 1-3-1 with a Yasuo and York, but they're mainly looking for that explosive team fight with the Gragas and Lee Sin, and they also have some siege with the Zoe, so that's just some things I'm talking about right there. But something that they do have going for them is that they should have prio mid and an aggressive jungler. So they should have prio mid, an aggressive jungler, and they'll have prio top they'll have prio top after level 3, so they should have neutral objective control for the early stages of the game, which I think is really important. And they could look to just shut that Zac down and not let him off the ground. So it'd be really important to try to get some deep vision. So to get some forward vision on Zac's Zac's camp starts early in the game, so that we can look for some deep invades, because we actually will have prio top right after level 3. We have prio mid, and then top or bottom is actually is in kind of an even lane state, or it should be, but when we watch this gameplay out, it actually does kind of fall apart for Griffin. So we would like to see the Lee Sin try to make some deep invades, and something that Tarzan likes to do on the Zac is he likes to start on his blue buff all the time. I've seen him do this a lot. So he starts on his blue buff rather than a lot of Zacs will just start on their red side, because it's the most like XP efficient clear, and he clears AoE camps pretty healthily. So he likes to start on his blue side. I imagine that's so he doesn't get denied, because Lee Sin normally starts on his red side and will move the vertical jungling. So I imagine he does that so he gets denied. So would like to see Lee Sin, would like to see the KT as a team get some forward vision so they can look to deny Griffin's camps, a lot like SKT did to the Zac the other day, specifically with the Zoe priority versus the Victor matchup like we watched the other day. Specifically with the Zoe priority versus the Zac that we watched the other day. That'd be great to see, but it doesn't happen in this game. Which you can definitely do against Zac. When you pick a Zac, you are at a very big disadvantage in the early game, because you're drafting for what he can bring you later in the game. Cool. Anyways, they do have a team fight win condition, is what their win condition is, and it specifically talk about their win condition. So they can get those early neutral objectives and kind of snowball a lead from there. So Lee Sin can actually split a side of the map and try to snowball a lead from there. They can actually get plates top, plates mid, and Lee Sin can get like a wraparound gank and bottom, and they have a lot of gank potential in those lanes as well. So actually, they can do a lot of full court press in the early game, get the neutrals, get a lot of plates, can try to snowball the lead, and actually have a really explosive mid game fight, and can kind of blow up the game from there. So a lot of things this comp can do as well, but Griffin is comfortable. I'm not a big fan of letting go of the lead starting the game, but Griffin is comfortable doing that because they're Griffin, I think they have better players. But they also have a really decent mid game comp, and I think they can navigate out of that early game to get to that mid game and that Fiora split push win condition, along with the Zac, Galio, Ezreal pick stuff that they can do. So I like Griffin's comp as well. Even if it was a different team, I wouldn't mind Griffin's comp. I do like Griffin's comp. I think Fiora is really good on this patch. As like a late pick, as like a counter pick. I think split push can be really good on this patch. Alright, let me skip ahead. Do you actually want to... Okay. Yeah, skip too far back. Cool. Alright, let's get into the game. I usually like to talk about jungle pathings a lot. So what I talked about right here, it would be really good to see... KT try to get try to get a spot on where the Zach is starting. So Zach will generally want to start. He'll want to start on his Raptors, his blue buff, his blue buff, or get leashed by his bot lane. So you can just tell that by just warding the blue buff or warding the Raptors. You don't necessarily have to ward the red. You can just tell if he actually gets leashed. So he'll either solo his blue, solo his Raptors, or get leashed by his bot lane. So that can give you a lot of information on like camp spawns, and can tell you whether or not you can actually what camps you should invade and where you can meet him in the jungle, because you do want to meet him. But Umti, I think, just opts to just double scuttle him, is what he opts to do, rather than actually look for some aggressive invades. Oh, so they do actually get did they actually get the wards? They got the ward on the Raptors, so they know he's not starting Raptors. And they know he didn't start. Okay, cool. So they did actually get the... Okay, never mind. I'm an idiot. They actually do know where he's starting. They know he's at least either starting blue or wolves. Generally, he would want to start blue. He might start wolves, but... And then Zach doesn't go for scuttles unless he's level 3. But I would really like Lee Sin the vertical jungle right here rather than double scuttle. He should get prio mid. But instead he opts to just trade farm and double scuttle. I guess he doesn't have prio bottom. Okay, he doesn't have prio bottom. Okay. Oh yeah, Ezreal can get prio in that lane early because Galio Q on the waves. Okay, that's... Alright, I was criticizing for no reason. That's just a good play. The Ezreal bottom lane, I totally forget that Galio is CSing, so Galio literally just Qs the wave to CS it. I didn't even think about that. That's totally my bad. He actually can't go for that invade. That's my bad. That's totally my bad. So that's why they didn't go for that. But he doesn't have spawn timers, so Lee Sin will probably just move up, get these camps, the scuttle, and maybe the Gromp. If he does the Gromp, it might rubber band spawn. I don't think he gets the Gromp. He just gets scuttle and his 2 top camps. So okay, that makes complete sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, I was wrong. Umti does want to get some bot side control because the first streak is mountain. So maybe after his first back, he can just path bottom anyways, because his camps will be rubber band spawning, and he can get some deep vision around, and maybe he can get a wraparound gank. But they actually just get a solo kill. Kingzone does, based off of just Lehends outplaying himself. Feels bad. Yep. And Umti just backs in the lane just in case Smeb was going to get ganked. Yeah, this was just a solo kill, or not a solo kill, but a duo kill, whatever. It's based off of Lehends making a mistake. Oh yeah, okay, they're actually looking for a play mid. Then maybe looking for an invade on the Raptor camp, because they know it's respawning. And then Tarzan actually gets it with the smite. Okay, they actually are looking for some more aggressive plays. Nice. Good play. I don't know why I missed this when I earlier watched. Yeah, so Lee Sin can look for some wraparound ganks down here. Yeah, so they do want to play bot side. So Kingzone actually doing a really good job right now. This is actually exactly what Kingzone wants to do. They're not exactly shutting the Zac down. The Zac's about to come online, but they're doing a really good job. Just if they can snowball this lead bottom side, this would be a really good job. Nice. This is really nice. Man, I didn't notice all the good things Umti was actually doing in this game. Umti's actually having a really good early game. Look at this vision control bottom side. This vision control bottom side is actually really good. But Tarzan's about to hit the level 6, and he's about to come online. Yeah, Griffin's kind of inting the bot lane right now. Like, they're making a lot of mistakes. It's mainly Lehends. Lehends is making a lot of mistakes in lane. It's honestly a lot why they're dying, but also props to Umti for looking for the plays. But now when Tarzan hits level 6, the lane that he wants to get ahead really bad is Sword. So he really wants to look for plays around Sword so that they can have a pressure point on the side of the map, because if they can get to the mid game at a kind of an even state in terms of the rest of their champions, they feel okay about just getting mid prio and looking for picks with the Zac and Galio, they feel good about that, even if they're like at a slight deficit, as long as they can have like a hard pressure point on a side of the map. That Sword can just take towers and maybe like look for some TP flanks, that type of stuff. So they feel good about that. So Zac's gonna want to look to make plays around Sword for sure. Once he hits level 6, so he is level 6 now. They're not gonna have control of this bottom side. So all right, looking for a play down here. He's just playing around his own back timing. Yeah, I can't query around the vision. Yeah, they just have like no power bottom side. Feels really bad. All right. Yeah. So Kingzone can actually, they still have prio in mid and top, so they can actually just transition this vision control. They can transition this vision control around top side if they want to get force Rift Herald. But the other option is just to continue to snowball Yasuo, is the other option that they could look for. Yeah, so Umti opts into doing the Rift Herald, which is the fine decision to do. But he actually doesn't have like deep vision within the enemy's jungle and vision control around the objective, kind of like how he does the other one, but I think he's still just going to get it. Yeah, he ends up still getting it, but there's a fight here. Oh, this is just like a really... Chovy plays really good in this fight. Yeah, Chovy plays really well in this fight. So does Zenit. Zenit plays pretty good in this fight. This is a 4v5. Yeah, so KT actually ended up getting the Rift Herald during that, so... Oof. So net positive play. So net positive play for KT. Ezreal does get some solo XP, and I think Yasuo misses maybe like half a wave, maybe a full wave. So Yasuo misses maybe a full wave of XP, but Yasuo got a kill. Watch that again. Watch this in normal speed. Yeah, so Smeb gets it with a Q. Sword. Sword buys a lot of time. Then he dies. Chovy gets a kill on the back end. Almost kills Zenit. Man. Ooh. Ooh, that kill was so close. Oof. That fight was really close. But that was a 4v5. Yep. So KT should be looking for all the neutrals. Their comp is definitely like in control at this part of the game because they just have superior wave control. They just have a lot of superior wave control at this stage in the game with all the outers up. With nobody really having items, especially but except for Yasuo has his one item, so they just have wave control. So and just a more powerful jungler. This is a really good play by Tarzan. Nice. So as I said, he just wants to get Sword to kill, so Sword can just win that matchup. So Sword's gonna get shoved in and lose turret plates, but you know what sucks is Smeb actually times out his Rift Herald. He dies while having it up. Feels bad. What's going on here? The Sword finishes Ravenous Hydra. As soon as he has Triforce, like that matchup is... Oh. Oh yeah, Chovy gets a kill right here. Oh, Chovy's so good. Yeah, as soon as Fiora finishes her Triforce though, that matchup is pretty donezo. It's already feeling pretty bad for Yorick. And good play by Tarzan. Good heads up play by Lehends. He was like already in position. They have vision. I think they had vision of that. Okay, yeah, they had vision of that. Okay, that makes sense. Something that's so cool about Griffin, and we'll see it more in the other game too, is that they play so well as a team. They just cover for each other's lanes so well. It's pretty crazy, like how well they cover for each other's lanes. Yeah. So now that Tarzan and Galio are online, they're just looking for picks like that. Or the Zach. I don't know why I said Tarzan. I mean that's his name, but when the Zach pick comes online, they can look for picks like that. And as soon as they break this outer tower and can get Ezreal into the mid lane, it'll make it a lot easier for like moving around like that. And as the game goes longer, it'll just get even better because Sword will just become more of a monster and more of something to deal with. The thing that KT has going for them though is that they still have like the Yasuo pressure. But now the matchup for like Zoe is starting to feel so much worse just because Chovy is getting so strong and now he has all of his upgrades so he can insta clear the wave and he's going the full AP build. So Zoe actually doesn't have the prio anymore, so they actually don't have the full mid river, full bot river control anymore. So rather than having the full neutral control, now there's a Galio and Zach just roaming around the objectives that you want to have control over, and Victor just insta-kill the wave and will just roam over with them. So now like just looking for these neutrals aren't as free as they once were, and Griffin's comp actually can fight now. And what's fine with Ezreal being bottom right now is all the objectives you want to fight around are still at bottom lane. So that's fine Ezreal being bottom. Because the power of Ezreal is he gets such good mid prio, but so does Victor. So does Victor, full AP Victor. Victor gets a lot of mid prio. So this is fine. So they actually just poke out KT a little bit. Now they're just Griffin got reestablished his vision control. So KT can't really see this, so they're having to walk in. Oh, okay. Hold on. Oh, we'll get to see a replay of this. It's actually just a really well played fight by Griffin. I want to say Yasuo plays this bad, but I'll have to just see it again. I think when I watched it live, I remember Yasuo playing this bad. The Tarzan gets the smite. Feels good, man. BDD gets chunked out. Oh, and Sword's just getting a tower. Okay, hold on. Okay, let's watch this. Okay. Gragas gets knocked up on Chovy. Chovy's just running away from him, kiting him out. Galio ult comes down. Yeah, Zenit doesn't get a lot of value off of his Yasuo ult because Chovy just kites, and the Galio ult is so good. Galio is just so powerful. Yeah, the Galio ult was just really good. Or Galio ult just like cucks everything Yasuo wants to do. So Yasuo gets like an ult on the Chovy, and then Chovy just instantly, I want to say Chovy flashed there. Chovy just flashes and just instantly gets Galio ulted and just walks around that circle, and then Yasuo is forced to flash out of that fight because there's not anything else he can do. Alright, and then Tarzan is just looking for a play right here. Ooh, he gets ulted in front of them. I don't think that's what you wanted. Oh, Chovy's so strong. Just one shots. There's a play later in the game that that'll explain why the Tarzan Galio, or not Tarzan Galio. Why do I keep saying Tarzan? Zach Galio is really good. Yeah. Chovy gets one shot there. Yeah, it's not to say that KT's comp doesn't have a lot of pick potential either, and is obviously very strong in the mid game as well. But now Griffin's very far ahead, and the Fiora is going to be a monster on the side. Do they get a turret? They get a turret on the backside off of getting those kills. Like killing Chovy was a big deal. Killing Chovy and getting the shutdown was a big deal. So it's off of a trouble bubble, and then the Lee Sin Q comes through. But yeah, they just rotate their Ezreal mid. So Griffin's just gonna want to have their Ezreal mid. So their Ezreal mid just killing the wave. Their Victor will just be catching the side wave, rotating back mid. They'll try to get vision control of this top quadrant. So They'll try to get vision control of this top quadrant, and they'll be looking for picks with their Galio Zac, and then the Ezreal can get to the fight so fast, and their Fiora will just be collecting farm and collecting turrets. Zac is just be roaming around, making sure they have protection. They're actually not so far ahead that they can get like super forward vision at the moment. But they're going to try to get vision along this quadrant right here, right? They actually do have some pretty good vision right here though already. And as I said, if you're not familiar with watching my VOD reviews, I always talk from the point of view of the team in the driver's seat. So as you saw at the beginning of the game, I talked a lot about what KT wanted to do, but now I'm talking a lot about what Griffin wants to do because they are much in the driver's seat of the game. So that's why it seems like I'm talking in that direction. It's not because I'm like a Griffin fan. It's just because I talk from the team that is in the driver's seat. Yeah, KT does have some potential to look for some picks within their own jungle if they can reestablish vision control. But Griffin's just looking to get a control of these choke points in front of Baron, and they can actually look for picks with these two champions while their Fiora just splits. If Fiora's just kind of collect dragons, they actually don't have to move down as a team to get dragons. So that's pretty nice. And they can if they want to, but they actually don't have to. See, Fiora can just go down and solo dragons because she can just shove in the wave and they get dragon for free. It's pretty nice. She just goes back and catches a wave. Gotta catch some waves, bruh. KT just getting vision back while Griffin's resetting their backs. So when Griffin gets back, they'll just push out their waves and then look back for vision control. Oop, okay, they're looking for a fight. I want to say nothing happens in this fight, but maybe it does. Oh yeah, it does. Oh, Chovy plays this fight like a freaking Chad. He just flashes into the Yasuo's face and keeps fighting it. He's also just really, really far ahead, so that's why he's able to do that, but it's just flashing into him. Yeah, so they get a fight in the river. Fight goes really well for them. Keep in mind, Griffin's just also really good at team fighting, but they're also ahead. I mean, they're also like 7k ahead, so that's just a gold bleed is what's happening there. So they get the kill. Yeah, so we can watch this in real time. Watch this team fight in real time. I don't think they do anything special. This is just a gold lead. Lehends kind of messes up right there. All right, Lehends gets a good taunt. Galio ult comes down on him, and then Chovy just flashes on to the Zenit, and Zenit's like, why is this guy flashing on me? And then he insta flashes away. Well, this looks so slow if I'm doing it in real time. Okay. Now they have all 5 up here, and Fiora is just bottom side. And Smeb had to use his TP to get there, I think. I think they both used their TP in the last fight. I think that's what happened. Smeb's just pushing tower. They're looking to try to get a catch. While they're doing this, Griffin's also looking for a catch. No? Okay. Oh yeah, Sword does get caught on this. I think as Sword, maybe you just look to try to outplay, but either way, you probably die. They are still losing a wave at the tower, but they do get a kill. Yep, so they'll just keep doing this Baron dance. Fiora just keeps getting stronger. So Griffin is fine with this, right? So they want to keep doing this Baron dance and just keep fighting for vision and looking for these fights in the river or inside the enemy's jungle with their Zac Galio. They're fine with this, right? The Fiora only gets stronger in the later game, and their comp is fine to scale. Like their comp does fine in the late game, as far as like a 4-man unit. So they're fine with this right now. So they're perfectly fine with this game going longer. They don't need to necessarily close it out right now because they're getting all of the neutrals. Sword is just getting more powerful and more obnoxious in the side lane, and they're winning the 4v4s right now, and they're going to continue to win the 4v4s if the gold stays even. just based off of execution. It will still just come down to execution. It'll come down to execution, but also I would just give the benefit of the doubt to Griffin's comp as well. Ezreal's a hard. Ezreal and Victor are kind of hard for Yasuo to deal with in terms of like mobility and all that jazz. Well, you can kind of deal with the Victor, but Victor is very strong right now. Okay, this play was really good. I do want to talk about this play. They just they're punishing you for just getting this wave at your tower. So this is kind of like an unexpected type of play. So Griffin's been looking for plays around this spot this entire time, right? Okay, cool. So let me break this down. Let's see. Okay, so Tarzan just gets up, clears that out, checks that bush. Okay, now he's just sitting in this bush. And Yasuo, Zenit just comes up greedily to check the farm. And then Chovy comes up and kills him. So that was a little bit greedy of Zenit because he just saw him right there. But generally you'd think the Zac would probably just walk away. But he just sits in that bush and the Victor just hovers behind because they're going to look for a play like that. And the Galio is just posted up behind here because they know this isn't warded. They know this Tribush isn't warded because he jumped in there and all they had was the Ghost Poro. So they know an actual ward isn't actually in that bush because why would you waste your ward if you put your Ghost Poro there? So he was just waiting in that bush behind them. So this is a free setup, a little bit greedy, because they just saw the Zac, but you know, this whole game you've been seeing the Zac look for plays around this part of the map, and it just kind of looked like Tarzan just went up and looked for the play, and then he was like, I couldn't get the play, I'll just go back out, because that's what he's been doing constantly. And this was literally a wave at his own inner tower, so it felt like a safe play for Zenit, but Griffin just punishes them for that. So punishing you for every wave. So since they get that kill, they just go in for full siege. Who cares about Baron? We'll just take your base. York has to come up to answer, but then there's a Fjord pushing in your bottom wave. Yeah, that's not the way you want to kick her. But he also flashed. He flashed. That's why he got kicked that direction. Yep, they get a top inhibitor and a mid inhibitor, so they can just reset and get full Baron, or they can just go straight to Baron maybe. Looks like they want to reset. They can just keep their Fjord bottom. They can reset. They can reset and just go straight and rush Baron, or the KT's only chance is to actually just meet them and try to fight them. So they can actually just go fight KT in their jungle and they'll win that fight. While the Super's slowly in the game for them. So they actually don't have to go take this Baron, because the only way KT wins this game, right, is if they steal Baron right now. The only way they win this game is if they get a pick, like they get a pick and they steal Baron, or they get a pick or they steal Baron is the absolute only way they can get back in this game right now. I don't even think getting a pick will do it for you. I think they'll just 4-man Baron while your base is taken. So the only way they win this game is you steal Baron. So all Griffin has to do right now is just push into this jungle. And wait for them to come to them and kill them all. And look at this debate up here. Look at this debate. Like, this is like the biggest debate ever. Because look, why would Chovy need to be walking up here to clear this wave when there's a super wave right there and it's just going to meet over here? So Chovy's walking up right here, but that's why Tarzan's right here and they have a Galio and an Ezreal. Like the biggest debate ever. He literally one-shots him, too. SnowFlower is level 11. Biggest debate of your life. If you are just TPs up, kills everybody. Who needs a Baron? But KT had to go for a play, right? They were just going to lose the game if they didn't go for a play there. So they kind of had to go for that. Feels bad, man. Okay, cool. Anyways, well, that was about it. Well, I'll stop it on Tarzan's face. Accidentally pressed stop recording. Anyways, we're going to end it right there. Look at Fake Wolf. Look at Tarzan's face. But anyways, we're gonna end the VOD review there. But that was a pretty clean game by Griffin after the mid game. So their comp is built to lose the early game. I liked everything KT was doing in the early game. Just it's hard to say where it fell apart for them. They just lost those mid game fights that Griffin's comp was kind of made to do. So it's kind of Griffin's just really good. It's kind of hard to break down right now where KT went wrong. KT maybe could have just played the team fights better and snowballed a little bit better around the Yasuo. Also, there were just some individual outplays within like some of the mid lane fights. Some of the mid game fights, Chovy played really well. Some of those chaotic fights that they were looking for went really poorly for KT, so that went really poorly for them. In general, I think, and in general also, I think they got outdrafted for what Griffin wanted. I mean, they really wanted that split push, pressure points, and then that mid game team fighting comp. That can transition really well into the late game. So I think in general they got outdrafted just based off of what Griffin wanted. I think KT also got what they wanted, and they played really well around their early game strengths, but then lost out on a lot of the mid game fights, and the game was kind of unwinnable from there because the Fiora was just on a clock, and mostly just a really clean game by Griffin. Pretty bad plays by Lehends and Lane, but you know, that's Lehends and Lane. Whatever. Anyways, hey, thank you so much for watching this one. I really enjoyed making this one. But we're gonna do the second game of this, so stick around for that. If you want to see that one, just click on the next one. So, anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. All right, bye bye. Let me find the stop recording. I found it. Okay, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye.